We are back for another week, week 7 of Season 2 Motor Droid Racing League. And we are going to be in Canada as our top competitors battle it out in a sprint race followed by a 35 lap GP. So we'll see 2 qualifyings and 2 races. The sprint race is going to be down to 12 laps, lots of points to take home in the Drivers' Championship this weekend. We're going to exit the chats as we get to the loading screen of the first qualifying of the session. Sprint race in Canada. What's in store for us? How will the season shake up? I am flying solo again tonight. Not again, but I'm flying solo tonight with Walt not being here for the color commentary. Didn't have time to look at who dominated here last season. We are on week 7, 13 weeks. Things are starting to shape up the Drivers' Championship as we continue to see Gamer and Lucas battle it out for the top 2 positions. You got the return of your mom's technician. He's hoping to get back in here and prove his way back up to his normal P3 position. And only time will tell. These guys have been practicing all week, ready for this sprint qualifying. They no doubt know their setup. All right, and we're looking at a rainy qualifying session for the sprint race. This should make things interesting. As we know in the past, the rain ends up causing quite a stir in the standings. Can't wait to see what it happens as they start to get out of pit lane and onto the track. We can see already it's wet out there. And who was that just left first? We got a Racing Bull there, Josiah. We got the Cadillac of Lucas. The first to exit pit lane, so we'll keep an eye on him. He does have struggles in the wet weather, but I've also seen him perform quite well. Not sure what driver we'll see in the Cadillac as he comes out and tries to get those tires warmed up for his first attempt at a qualifying P1. All right, let's take a look on board with Lucas. He's getting ever closer to the final turns of Canada and approaches that start-finish line to start doing his first flying lap of the sprint qualifying session. He's on his wet weather tires, and he's got his first start as he locks it up a little bit. Naturally, in the rain, struggles a little bit through that first corner, as I suspect many of our drivers will tonight. It's just extremely difficult with very wet weather out there. Take a look at the Cadillac flying around the track. Looks to be having a fairly straightforward, decent time that he's setting here as he pushes out of Sector 2, showing up in strong fashion as he normally does as a driver. He's getting full of battery, so there's times where Lucas will make a flying lap and then his second flying lap ends up being his attempt at a qualifying time, but he is draining that battery now as he avoids some traffic. He's pushing that 115 mark coming into the final turns. And if you can master that in the rain, you've got something going for you. Lucas now pushing. He'll be the first to set a time here in Canada with a 1.26, putting him into P1. Let's go with the home track driver, Josiah, and the Racing Bulls. He rounds that final corner in Sector 3. He's at a minute 23, pushing towards Lucas's P1 time, just short. He'll find himself, he must have invalidated his lap, and that's going to happen a lot here in the rain. We are now taking a look at Gamer, his first flying lap attempt, as he approaches the final turns of Champions Wall. And we've got 123 pushing in. He's going to set the first fastest time with a 1.24. And he's a second and a half of Bernardo in the Mercedes, who set a time and is in P2. Let's look at the Chef Yum, sets a time to find his way into P4. Let's take a look at the Williams. Your mom's technician now back in a Williams. He was riding Alpine for the first part of the season. We see a mid-season change here for the driver that's just returned after some time off. He's now pushing into Sector 1, not draining much battery. I'm not sure he's flying at this moment. Take a look at Bud So Loud, who's now finds himself in a Cadillac with Lucas, and he gets through those final turns, setting a decent pace. Not going to be enough to contend for the top 5, but he does get into the P5 position in front of Wipeout. Good to see Wipeout back in the McLaren. He's missed a couple of weeks. And we got some people actually teaming up here. Gotta love to see people coming together to be on teams with Chef Yum and your mom's technician representing Williams. It's good to see the Williams back on the track after an absence the first few weeks of the season. All right, we've got a interesting qualifying session shaping out here for our sprint race in Canada as we look at the main competitors finding their way back into pit lane. We see Lucas there in the Cadillac. Appears he's got to be heading back unless he fueled up to have several laps around this first attempt, which may be a strategy decision by him and his team. Let's hop on board with current P3 sitter, Lucas. As we hop through these onboards all the way down to Josiah, here on a home race in Canada, has yet to set a time. Disappointing for him early. Earl Wipeout, EARL Wipeout. Wipeout sets a second place time as it looks like he was just coming off a collision with a teammate. Not a teammate, somebody else in orange back there, but he was able to take P2 on those intermediate tires. And then Gamer slides in, probably literally with a 1.124.4. So he is now 0.6 of a second off of Lucas, who has set a P1 time. So that was a big shakeup. I just could not find the correct driver to be following, but we've got 5 minutes left. This top 5 is going to shake up yet again as these drivers are going to have to make their way back to pit lane and perhaps a different set of tires. Bernardo just coming out of pit. He's going to be contending. Mom's technician. Still Josiah down there, not setting a time. You get the bottom 4, 8 through 11, have not set a time. And we're looking at a very consistently typical top 3 when all 3 drivers show up to race. You'll see it be a good mix of Gamer, Lucas, and Wipeout. Now, as we're going to hop into the pit lane, see where Gamer's at. Lucas now approaching pit lane. So who will be first to re-enter or re-exit pit lane and go onto the track to try to claim a P1 position going into the sprint race here in Canada, which is just going to be 12 laps tonight. And would you look at that? Would you look at that? We have two pigs crossing the finish line to take a P5 position with a beautiful flying lap here in Canada in the rain. And now we see Gamer made his way out of the pit. So we're going to keep our eye on the top three. Gamer went out first, Wipeout went out second, and Lucas, who's current P1 sitter, has gone out third out of the top three. So let's see what unfolds as these drivers push the track to the absolute limits in what it looks like is rain that has not even thought about slowing down. I guess it may be maybe coming down a little bit more lightly than it had at the very beginning of qualifying. These guys have got to be hoping the rain does not carry over to the race. There's just some treacherous laps out there as they try to push through here at Canadian GP as we get through the final turns. And we look at Gamer now, set to push on a final flying lap in the qualifying session for sprint race at Canada. On board with Gamer in the Red Bull. Gamer looking quite comfortable, as he always has here in Canada, setting a very good pace through Sector 2. He's beat his own self by 7/10 of a second, which would be enough to put him in contention for P1. As Bernardo takes P1, we were not even watching him as he was sitting P4. He has now set the new pace for pole position. Congratulations to the Mercedes driver. How long will that hold up as Gamer comes flying through Sector 3, trying to get around some lap traffic as he gets through the final chicanes, and he is on pace to set a P1 contending time. He gets a little bit of a toe, and he gets 122.8, a brilliant lap as he goes sub 1:23 on this attempt to take home pole position in the sprint qualifying at Canada. Amazing lap. Wipeout now pushing. He is off pace. He's not going to set a better time. So we're going to go take a look at Lucas, who is now 9/10 of a second ahead of his best time of his time last go around on a flying lap in Sector 2. So he's setting a good pace, but now qualifying is over. So people did not get across the finish line in time, or we just didn't get on board with them in time to watch them finish. Either way, we are looking at the pole position holder. Lucas did set a sub 123 there at the end. So he is literally 3/100ths of a second short of edging out Gamer for pole position. This is going to be a tight sprint race in Canada. Look at those intervals as it went from a best time of being a 123 to a best time being a sub 123 in the blink of an eye. Absolutely entertaining, fantastic racing as these guys make their way around this great track in Canada. And my apologies. We thought that sprint qualifying had completed, but I forgot about the driver wipeout in the McLaren, and he snagged the pole position from Gamer at the very closing moments of sprint qualifying session with a sub 122, beating him by 6/10 of a second. What a shakeup at the end. And again, my apologies. I thought qualifying was over. I'll look to do a better job as we move forward into this race and the next qualifying session. Congratulations to Wipeout. Thanks to him for finally joining us and taking a pole position in this sprint race away from Gamer. And then we'll be looking at Lucas sitting in P3 behind Gamer, and Gamer in the P2 position. Great race is in store for us as we see these drivers make their way to the formation lap here in Canada. We're here at the circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal, Canada. It's a fast, slow downforce semi-street circuit, heavily celebrated for delivering chaotic, high-stakes, wheel-to-wheel racing, which I think we got a glimpse of in that qualifying with those tight intervals. It's built on the man-made island in the middle of the St. Lawrence River. This track strips away modern, sprawling asphalt runoffs and replaces them with punishing concrete walls right next to the racing line. A masterclass in old school track design. It's beloved by fans and highly respected by drivers as they make their way to the starting grid to take on this circuit that is a 2.71 mile test of this car's stop and go capabilities. So these drivers are constantly going to have to transition from blistering straight line speeds to heavy braking chicanes across 12 laps in this sprint qualifying session. All right, we're taking a good look at these drivers as they get the energy deployment system ready, and they are revving their engines, about to take each other on in this 12-lap sprint race in Canada. We see the McLaren of Wipeout as we have 4 lights lighting up, and all 5 are about to go out, and we are racing here in the sprint qualifying session at the Canadian GP as the McLaren and Red Bull battle off the line. The Red Bull takes an early advantage on the outside, but the McLaren stays competitive, and still Gamer able to pull away right off the starting grid, away from the McLaren of Wipeout. Lucas falls in line, taking the P3 position in the Cadillac, and what a great race. Lucas already picked up a penalty for multiple warnings at the very beginning of the race, so there must have been a lot of contact, a lot of off-track instances taking place. You see Josiah in P4. Lucas now making a pass attempt on Earl Wipeout, and Gamer must have just completely crashed out. I missed what was happening on screen as I'm looking through the leaderboard, and Gamer finds himself all the way down in P11. So a spin out happened on camera that I just missed. Wow, what a shakeup, and we're not even through the very first lap as Wipeout, who started P1, now sits P1. Lucas sitting P2 after starting P3 with a penalty already, and Gamer all the way down to P11. So he goes P2 to P1 to P11, the blink of an eye, and that's Formula One racing. So we're taking a look at your mom's technician, the Williams, battling out with Bernardo, the Mercedes. Let's go on board with Bernardo real quick. Take a look at this racing action between the two. They make their way through these first turns, late entry turns of the Canadian GP, and we are seeing a big shakeup. What can Gamer do? Did he end up with front wing damage? Love to be able to go and look that one back. Something happened to just shake up the leaderboard of the race as Bernardo makes an inside lane move, followed by the Cadillac of Bud So Loud. They're both putting an immense amount of pressure on your mom's technician as we look on board There's the rear wing of your mom's technician as it opens up and closes in the Williams, and he is just doing what he can to evade the pressure from the Mercedes of Bernardo. Now, back to the top, you see Josiah very tightly contending and chasing Lucas for that P2 position. We're going to have to take a look at penalty information right off the bat because look at this. The top two race leaders already have 3-second penalties, making Josiah the presumptive P1 if penalties were to stick like this, and we only have 10 laps left here in the sprint race. Penalties around the board. Gamers managed to make his way back up to P10 after who knows what happened to him. Had to be a spin out, perhaps caused by some of these penalty holders. Let's continue to watch and look on board with Lucas in the Cadillac for some more racing action between the top three. Okay, we're taking a look as this battle for top three continues to just be really tight, just really 0.3 to 0.4 of a second as they make their way around this track in Canada. And Lucas and Wipeout both having those 3-second penalties. Not sure if Josiah notices or not, but all he has to do is stay close and keep it tight within 3 seconds of the top two, and he'll take home his first sprint race championship in Motor Droid Race League history for himself. Let's hope he can do it, folks. And that Racing Bull, just keep it clean himself and stay on the tail of these top two drivers. We see Gamer back up into P9, very Max Verstappen-esque to spin out, but yet make your way back up through the lineup. But we're going to stay with this tight race between these three on board with Lucas, looking back through his rear wing as it opens and closes, trying to fend off that pressure from Josiah and the Racing Bull. And we'll go on board with Earl Wipeout for a moment, and we take a look at that Cadillac completely hunting him, trying to get into a position to make a pass around the track here at Canada. These drivers definitely happy that it's not raining like it was in the sprint qualifying session, as they find themselves in a completely dry track, and we are just into lap 5 of 12. Josiah, the story of the race. Can he keep it clean enough to avoid penalties, as all he has to do is stay within 3 seconds for his first ever P1 trophy in the Motor Droid Race League? Take a look at what Gamer's been able to do after spinning out and finding his way all the way to the bottom of the pack in P9, now hunting down Hudson the King. Good to see Hudson join us in the Audi. You got Bud So Loud. He's now racing around in the Cadillac, trying to find his way up to Two Pigs, who's in P6 in the other Red Bull. And he is 2 seconds behind Bernardo in the Mercedes. So your mom's technician sits 2.8 seconds ahead of Bernardo, trying to find his way closer to Josiah. It doesn't look like it. Now something's taken place with Josiah to be now 1.5 seconds off of Lucas. So he may not end up P1 at this rate. He must have had a spin out or a lockup of some sort, causing him to lose so much time between the two as we look at Lucas, who's, seeing Wipeout pull away from him at different spots in the track. He's got some grass on the tires, so he's definitely had an experience that we missed. And Josiah now falling away from these race leaders. So at this rate, it does look like Josiah is going to be outside of that 3-second penalty window. And as that happens, there it falls away his dreams of taking home the first place trophy in this sprint race. Let's keep looking at Lucas, who has always found a way to win, no matter where he's at in the lineup, and he is just continuing to put the pressure on Wipeout. This is going to come down to who manages the battery the best. As we take a look at some of the telemetry, let's take a look. Yeah, let's keep it on penalties. That's going to be vital, and we'll keep that on leader instead of interval. So we're taking a look now. Lucas has 20% battery as we go through that portion of the track, and Wipeout has 56%. So they're about at the exact same battery management level, both harvesting when they can. Yeah, they're quite equal on battery management. Now it's just coming down to racecraft and car setup to see who can shave the seconds off of their time. They're going to be pivotal to taking home pole position at the sprint race in Canada. On board now with Lucas in the Cadillac. Oh, and would you look at that? Would you look at that? Lucas makes a late lunge around that horseshoe turn here in Canada. Lucas makes that late lunge, and he's able to actually take P1 away from Earl around that giant horseshoe turn as he now tries to separate himself from Earl Wipeout and the rest of the pack to take home this sprint trophy. This is going to be huge for him in the Drivers' Championship to have himself finish first place if he can and have Gamer finish way down there in the middle of the pack. It looks like he'll end up being P8 unless the people in front of him really crash out. Josiah, Bud So Loud, and Falcon Miller are the only people to be penalty-free so far in the race, with Chef Yum taking home the trophy for most penalties, 13 seconds, all the way down in P11. What can Lucas do to fend off this aggressive attack? Let's go on board with Earl Wipeout in the McLaren, sitting P2. Valiant battle, valiant effort taking place between Lucas and Wipeout as Wipeout tries his hardest to stay close. They're both managing battery at about the same rate. You see Josiah still in P3, your mom's technician in P4 representing Williams. That race is staying close as Wipeout now putting the pressure on Lucas. Let's see what he's able to do as he approaches the rear end of Lucas. We are now looking at him attempting to take track position to the inside, and he gets it, but Lucas had enough deployment left to get back to the inside of that second turn, not allowing Wipeout any space to make a pass. Great defense by Lucas. Very impressive driving from both drivers. But to fend him off in that second turn on that portion of the track in Canada is quite impressive. Takes a great amount of concentration and a lot more racecraft than one would think to be able to pull that off as Lucas continues to just fly around this track in Canada. Now 0.4 of a second ahead of the Cadillac or of the McLaren of Wipeout. And Josiah still outside of these 3-second penalty windows. He'll still maintain that P3 position on the podium. If he can keep this race clean, maintaining his penalty-free status, and taking home third place in the sprint race here in Canada as we are now on lap 10 of 12, week 7, Motor Droid Sim Race League. Lap 11 now with Lucas taking a commanding position in this race after starting off P3 in qualifying. He was behind Wipeout, who started P1, and Gamer, who started P2. Gamer had a mix-up the very first lap of the race, causing him to drop as he went off track, and he dropped all the way down to P11 and has worked his way back up to P7. That's the story of the top 3 today, which places the Racing Bull of Josiah, his home track race. He's going to take home a sprint race podium in third if he can keep this up and things stay the same. Now we're going to go back on board with the race leader of Lucas in the Cadillac. Can he bring it home as he continues to fend off an immense amount of pressure from Wipeout as they cross that line and officially make it lap 12 of 12? Here we are on board with Lucas getting chased by that McLaren of Wipeout. This is going to be a great final lap. Who can take it home and take home the most points possible, which would be 8 points in this Canadian sprint race, which is great for Lucas to see Gamer down there in P7 taking home barely any points. Lucas is now ahead by 1.3 seconds as he has found an absolute comfort level in those medium tires after having to prove himself in very wet weather conditions during sprint qualifying and starting P3, has worked his way up to take the race lead. See a caution in Sector 2, and we see a mix-up of Josiah dropping down to P6. So Josiah must have gone off track, and he absolutely has. Now we have your mom's technician in the Williams. Oh, there's a wreck right there between the Cadillac. Who was driving those cars that just hit each other? Big mix-up taking place around the track here in the sprint race. Your mom's technician now is going to cross the finish line in P3, Wipeout in P2, and Lucas takes home the sprint race trophy in first place. Gamer worked his way back up to P6. Who knows how that'll end up after these penalties get assessed. Crazy finish on the final lap to see who was mixing it up with a wreck, and Josiah falls all the way down to P8 as he looks to spin out across the finish line in fashion that just says he's frustrated with how the end of that race went. Understandably so, being so close to a third place podium and then ending up down the line after a dreadful spin out, and some others actually crashed into each other. Great action in this sprint race. Let's just sit back and enjoy the sounds of Formula One until we get to the race qualifying. We will now do a qualifying session and move on to a GP that is 35 laps here in Canada. All right, here we are in the short qualifying session. 17 minutes and 45 seconds left in Q1, the one and only qualifying session for our drivers here in Canada, as they look to take home their great position on the grid to try to make up for any downfalls they had in that sprint race. As we saw Lucas take home the trophy, followed by Wipeout and your mom's technician in third. Great for him to get those points, as he had a couple weeks of missing the races. He needs to get points to reclaim his rightful position of P3 for the season, as he took home that third place trophy last year. We see a McLaren exit pit lane first, and that's going to be Wipeout actually behind the racing, or the Cadillac of Lucas is already out on an outlap. Then you got Wipeout, and in front of him, yep. So we'll just go ahead and keep our eye on Lucas, as he'll be first to set a flying lap time here in Canada for the race at the Canada GP. Drivers must be breathing a sigh of relief as they see that it's a dry qualifying session. The sprint qualifying just a moment ago was very wet, torrential downpour weather. So they have really been tested so far tonight, as Lucas takes off into Sector 1 for his first flying lap attempt here on his soft tires, as he goes through and attempts to take home a P1 once again in the race, as he just took home a P1 in the sprint race a moment ago. Thank you for joining us. Motor Droid Race League Week 7. This is the one and only qualifying session for the Canada GP. Canada GP will be run at half distance at 35 laps. After doing 12 laps in the sprint race, these drivers are putting in a total of 47 laps of racing time tonight, not to mention the qualifying and all the practice that went into it. These drivers work so hard to put on a good show, and that's exactly what they do. So don't turn that channel. You're at the right place, right time for some good Formula One action, as the real drivers are on their mid-season break. Where else can you see racing action as good as this? Probably nowhere, as Lucas comes through the final turns of this track and sets a blistering speed of 110.9. And I say blistering because that sprint qualifying saw so much rain. They're in the 122s to set a good pace time. So we'll go back down to Wipeout, who's next to cross out of the main competitors, as he's through these final two turns at Champions Wall. And he sets a 110.1 and takes the P1 position from Lucas. Who else was competitive in the sprint? That was Gamer. We go down and look at Bernardo. He's going to be behind Gamer, setting pace. So we'll take a look at Gamer in the Red Bull pushing through Sector 2 now. What can he do to join the top three? Right off the bat is Wipeout Lucas with impressive laps. Gamer's going to have to go sub 110 to take the P1 position on this session, on this lap right here. He's in Sector 3. Draining that battery as he approaches these final two turns of the track. He gets through there at a great pace. He's going to go almost sub 110, not enough. He is 0.2 of a second behind Wipeout. He finds himself in a P2 position. Let's find some other fast drivers on the track. You've got your mom's technician and Bernardo. Bernardo just came in at a P3. We missed that. Your mom's technician in the pit lane. Josiah can set a good pace here as he crosses the finish line with a 110.6 and finds himself P3. Lucas now pushed all the way down to P5. Let's see what he's doing. He's on a flying lap. He's been loading up with fuel lately and running multiple laps to set his pace. And to each their own. At least he's finding a strategy he's happy with. Keep going with it as he's draining battery. Can he improve in Sector 2? Let's see. No, he is off his time by a tenth of a second, almost 2/10 of a second. He'd really need a big improvement in Sector 3 to beat his best time of a 110.9. So he's not going to find himself in this top 3 after this lap. He'll have to go back to the pit and do some thinking, see what he can fix. He just decides to go way right back into the pit right now. So who's out? Flying around trying to set a time. None of the main contenders. They all find their way back to pit lane. Mom's technician has yet to set a time here. He's got to be exiting shortly. He's going to want to get something in before the final moments of the day are upon us. Look at Josiah, currently P3. Appears to be on a push lap. So he's draining that battery, making his around his way to these tight corners. Now, 10th of a second better than his own personal best in Sector 1, which gets him a little bit closer to Gamer, as he's currently 0.3 of a second off of that pace to take P2. What can he do in Sector 2 to continue to improve on his own personal best time? He got almost another 10th. So he's approaching that time of Gamer. Gamer just set another better time of 0.2, which would leave Josiah sitting 0.2 of a second off of his pace as it sits now. He's going to need a vast improvement as he drains that battery in Sector 3. I don't think he's going to end up with enough gasoline to finish. He's going to go through and try anyways because he knows he's got a good pace about him. Drains that battery all the way to the end, down to a 0.3. He improves upon his own time by 0.3 of a second, with Gamer still ahead of him by a tenth of a second in P2. And Josiah is followed by 2 pigs of the Red Bull, who finds his way across going off track as he's done with his flying lap. And now we see these drivers with 10 minutes and 30 seconds left make their way back to pit lane and make their way back with a new strategy. Let's take a full look at your mom's technician in the Williams. 0 laps on these softs. He's finally on an out lap. Let's go on board and listen in. Again, we have no idea what kind of pace he's setting for himself, as this is his first chance to actually set a time today, as he must have invalidated some laps earlier on his attempts. Finds himself in P11 with 8 minutes, 48 seconds left. Looks to be setting a decent time here in Sector 3. Can he find his way into that top 5, which is very tight right now, with everybody being separated by only 0.7 of a second, all the way from P1 down to P6. Do see Wipeout still in first place, and your mom's technician sets a 111.889. Not enough to get in that top mix. He's now at P8. Who's out now? As we need to take a look at Lucas, who finds himself in P6. A very peculiar position for him. It's not very often you see this during qualifying. Doesn't look to be deploying much battery. I don't think he's on a flying lap right now. Just 8 minutes and 3 seconds away from finding out who will sit in pole position as we go to the main Grand Prix. See what Bernardo's doing. He does appear to be pushing, draining that battery. And he's way off his own best time, so he's not going to do anything impressive as Lucas is now to the pit lane. So he did go out and make another attempt. Didn't have enough in the bag. Does he go back now to the pit lane and think about car setup? Think about tire usage? We'll see. Now Gamer is going to go out there, try to improve by more than 1/10 of a second to take P1 from Wipeout. I think, we're going to have to see a sub 110 in order for somebody to take home pole position instead of Wipeout. As we look at the Red Bull of Gamer flying around a track he's very familiar with, practiced a lot to get here. Already ran 12-lap sprint race on it just a moment ago. Ended up 7th or 6th place in that race, miraculously, after a spin out early in lap 1. Let's go ahead and go on board with Gamer and listen in as he attempts to set a better time. What can he do? He does not look to have been setting a successful time, as he was 2/10 of a second, 2 seconds off of his pace through Sector 1, so he's not anything to look at the moment. As we see Bernardo, he is now 1/10 of a second better than his own personal best in Sector 1. Let's go on board with Bernardo in the Mercedes. He seems to have found his way on this track. Seems to be happy with the setup with 2-lap softs. He needs 4/10 of a second off of his best time just to get up to P1. He is now in Sector 3. Oh, he's setting a great pace as he's 105 through the final 2 turns. He is off to he's up to a 0.3. So there goes Bernardo jumping up to P3 in the Mercedes. Just 1/10 of a second behind Gamer in the Red Bull. Is Gamer now pushing? Yes, he is. He's pushing this time as he makes his way onto another flying lap. What can he do to compete, take P1 position back? He's got to keep an eye on that clock there for Sector 2. And he completely spins out and wrecks his car in the Red Bull. That has got to be devastating for him, as he was already off to a better start and setting a better pace for himself. He was going to battle for P1 with Wipeout. Now he's got to go back to the pit and get a completely new front wing. Wow. Do not see that often, especially during qualifying session with a driver like Gamer in the Red Bull. Would love to know what's going through his mind there. I think all he's thinking is get back to the pit, refocus, go out there again. That's all you can do as a driver. We look now at Bud So Loud, who's on an out lap, so he'll be flying soon. And the rest of our main competitors for the top 3 spots are all in the pit. So let's just go ahead and listen in with Bud So Loud on board in the Cadillac. Bud's so loud now, making his way through Sector 2. He has improved on his own personal best by 0.2 of a second, so he's setting a good pace to compete with these guys that are up there in the sub 111s. He'd find himself about P5 after this lap if he can keep it up in Sector 3. What can he do to remain competitive with these top drivers? He's always in the mix. He's now, I think he's going to find himself sub 111. Yes, just barely, 110.8. Finds himself in P6. He's now past Lucas, who's on an outlap. Let's see what Two Pigs is doing as he's right behind Bud So Loud, and he's right ahead of him on the leaderboard, but right behind him on qualifying laps. And he just set a Sector 2 that was 1/10 of a second better, so he'll remain ahead of Bud So Loud if he keeps this pace up, but just shy of Josiah unless he has a miraculous Sector 3. You can see his battery's down to 0% as he approaches these final 2 turns in Champions Wall, and he is just limping with no battery. Towards the finish line, he sets a 110.6, keeping himself in P5, just 0.3 of a second away from Josiah. We got to see what's going on with Lucas in this Cadillac, man. He has had a dreadful qualifying thus far, finding himself in P7. What can he do? Let's go on board with Lucas as he makes his way through Sector 2. He improves in that second sector. He's got to be happy about that. The question is, what can he do in Sector 3? It didn't improve by much. He is just less than 1/10 of a second away from P6 Bud So Loud. And he is 0.3 of a second away from Two Pigs in P5. Two Pigs rarely out-qualifies Lucas. And Lucas now blistering pace down to 0.6. He gets up to P6. He jumps Bud So Loud, his teammate in the Cadillac, and he's now just 1/100th of a second away from Two Pigs. Bernardo in the Mercedes sets a crushing time, still not a sub 110, but almost by 0.09 of a second. And Gamer, a blistering pace, now 0.4 of a second ahead. He sets the first sub 110 of the weekend in a 109.624 for the Drivers' Championship leader and defending Drivers' Champion from last season in the Red Bull, showing people how it's done. Who's next to step up to the plate and compete with that Red Bull? Bernardo, surprising pace to take P2. He does appear to be trying to push through again. Is that what Gamer's doing? No, he's letting some traffic by. He's not going to let it. Nope, neither is Bernardo, so it's down to Wipeout. What is he going to do? He was holding P1 just a moment ago, but these drivers, his main competitors, Bernardo and Gamer, outpaced him. And now he finds himself in P3 with 0 seconds left in the qualifying session. We are going to watch this unfold right in front of us as he's trying to manage that battery, but that thing is drained. He's 0.3 of a second better, which puts him sub 110, but just short of Gamer, who's in P1. We're now watching Wipeout in the McLaren, Sector 3. He's approaching these final 2 turns of Canada, which are extremely challenging to get right all the time. And he's completely drained a battery, barely able to harvest much as he pushes towards that start-finish line, and he wipes out. No way. He spins out on his attempt at P1. I think he had the pace, folks. He was right there with Gamer, but he pushed it to the absolute limit and spins out right at the start-finish line and will remain in a P3 position for the GP. What a mix-up we just saw with Gamer taking P1, Bernardo and the Mercedes at P2 on the medium tire. Beats Wipeout, who just beat himself and wiped out, just like his name says, at the very end for P3. Josiah the home race for the Canadian and the Racing Bull will start P4. Two Pigs outperforms Lucas in a qualifying session for P5, and Lucas in the Cadillac sits P6. We've got a race in store for us as that was a huge mix-up at the end, folks. Look at these times. Let's take a quick break and listen while we get ready for this great Canadian GP. Here we are taking a look at the drivers on the formation lap as we at the Circuit Gilles Villanueva. Exactly 14 turns. There's 7 right-handers and 7 left-handers. You've got turns 1 and 2. The Virage Senna, the Senna S, is right after the start line. The drivers hit a heavy braking zone into turn 1 with a sharp left turn. This immediately tightens into turn 2, a looping 180-degree right-hand hairpin. Who will survive? The pit exit feeds directly into turn 2. It's a high-stakes bottleneck on lap 1. You got turns 3 and 4. The Chappelle, this is a quick right-left chicane. Drivers must attack the curbs aggressively here to carry speed into the short straight that follows. Turn 5, a flat-out blind right-hand kink. Drivers take this corner at full throttle as they accelerate down the portion of the island. Turn 6 and 7, the Concorde, a slow, heavy braking left-right chicane. Turn 6 slows the car down while turn 7 spits them out close to a concrete barrier on the exit. And then we get all the way down to the final turns, the Wall of Champions chicane, the final brutal right-left chicane. Drivers fly into turn 13 at immense speed and bounce over the curbs and try to avoid smashing into the infamous concrete barrier at the exit of turn 14. And now we see all 11 of these drivers lined up in their grid position for 35 laps of racing action in the Sim Racing League that is Motor Droid Week 7 in Canada, with Gamer at the very front of the grid right next to Bernardo and the Mercedes as they wait, as we do, for these 5 lights to find their way illuminated. You've got 3 of them and then 4 and 5 at the same time. And when the lights go out like that, it is time to go racing as we look at the Red Bull of Gamer battling with Bernardo and the Mercedes right off the line with a huge gap into turn 1 and 2. Who survives? I don't see anybody die at the very beginning, which is rare with those types of tight corners at the very front of a race. We do see Wipeout take P2 away from Bernardo and is 9/10 of a second behind Gamer in the Red Bull. So very tight there, P1 through P8. Oh, the entire board is tight right now with intervals. You see Gamer with a healthy lead already of 9/10 of a second. Not sure how he did that, but Wipeout finding his way from P3 up to P2 and 2,000 Pigs in P4, so he passed Josiah and Lucas in the Cadillac, still in P1. Interesting start to the race as they find their way in line around this horseshoe chicane. Wow. Horseshoe turn, sorry. Not chicane. Now taking a look at Wipeout, he found his way to regain some position on Gamer. And we can look here through the rear wing of Wipeout being chased by the Mercedes of Bernardo. You see bottom of the order is getting shaken up quite a bit. Bernardo and the Mercedes, and who's back here? Two pigs, Josiah and Lucas. I think this is going to be a battle for the ages with these three being so tight in the middle of the pack. You'd rarely see Lucas start a race down in a position like P6. Not sure what happened during qualifying. He just must not have ever really found the car setup he could be happy with. But something tells me he'll battle his way towards the podium as this race unfolds, and we're only on lap 2 of 35. There's sure to be strategy come into play. It does look like we're going to be in for clear weather, which has got to be a huge breath of fresh air for our drivers that had to go through torrential downpour during the qualifying session for the sprint qualifying. Here in Canada, we're now looking on board with two pigs. He's getting chased down by his teammate, a Racing Bull. He's in a Red Bull. He's getting chased down by Josiah in the Racing Bull. We can now hop down to on board with Josiah, who's doing the chasing of two pigs, and look back through his wing and see the Cadillac of Lucas hunting him. So right now, and it looks like Earl Wipeout found his way to the top of the pack. I don't know if Gamer spun out or what, but now Wipeout is our race leader. Just like that in a blink of an eye here at Canada. Just like the sprint race, there's so much action, it's tough to know what to watch and when as a one-man show. Shout out to Walt on his vacation, who's normally a little more helpful to have around. So here we go, Wipeout being hunted by Gamer in the Red Bull. Let's watch what these guys can do as they go through these S-turns on this tight corner track. This tight corner track that is just surrounded by concrete barriers, making it almost lethal for those that attempt to push it to the limit. As Gamer finds himself wide on that horseshoe turn, almost lost position to the Mercedes of Bernardo, but no, he hangs on and lives to fight another day and keep that Mercedes off of his back and try to gain position on Wipeout in the McLaren. I do think right now, as it sits, this is going to come down to a Gamer strategy move in order for him to find that top position and secure it once and for all. He's usually best at it. We will look at tires here shortly as we saw Josiah just drop down to P5 and two pigs pass him. So two pigs got repassed by Josiah, and he sits back down in P5 again. Not much happening at the top of the pack. Let's see what happened here. Two pigs still hunting and trying to cause havoc with Josiah, and he's being hunted down by Lucas. Again, these three are going to battle it out for quite a bit of time as they find themselves in the middle of the pack. They're not normally all three this close to each other for this long during a race. Great to see something happen for the first time. First time for everything, they say. Twice if you like it. Absolutely beautiful day for driving around this track as we see these awesome liveries with the sun bouncing off of them. And that Red Bull of two pigs seems to be locked in on his car setup. He actually predicted a race win this weekend, which is rare for him. He rarely predicts anything about a race other than I'm going to lose. So Bernard, right now in Mercedes, chasing down. Look at how tight these intervals are at the top three. Gotta love to see it as they chase each other around just like P4 through P6. So when you look at P1 through P3, amazing race happening. P4 through P6, amazing race happening. We will do our best to bring you the best action, but for the most part, we really need to focus on the top podium and the strategy that's going to play out. It does look like most people chose medium tire, but we're going to find out once and for all. Well, first, let's take a look at position change. You got Gamer down a spot, Bernardo down a spot. P4 through P6, they've all remained the same, and your mom's technician has hopped 2 places from P9 to P7, and Miller from P11 up into P9 in the Audi. Great job. Great driving all around. Now we see the tire strategy and at least what these guys were thinking when they started the race. So you see the only person on hard tires in this entire lineup is the Mercedes of Bernardo, which means he will last longer than Wipeout in P1 and Gamer in P2. The question is, how much pace can he gain as they take their 20-second or so pit stops here at Canada? This could be a pivotal point in the race. If Bernardo out-strategized, he would be looking, I would think, for a two-stop where he takes hard tires very far and switches to a medium, possibly a soft. And these other drivers, we're looking at a two-stop versus a one-stop. So as these intervals remain tight and they race each other, one thing to consider is normally when you're racing against other drivers, the tire degradation and the tire temperature can tend to get a little bit out of whack, and the tire deg tends to be a little bit higher than if you were racing. Now, let's see. We're looking at the rear wing of Gamer being chased by that Mercedes. You see a bit of a mix-up with Josiah and Two Pigs again as they continue to race each other around these very tight turns and concrete barriers of the track here in Montreal. And Josiah now flying in that racing bull, trying to fend off Two Pigs. Lucas is falling down to P8 right now. And your mom's technician is all the way up to P6. He's now up, I think, 4 positions from where he started, or maybe 3 positions. You see some penalties start to add up, just like we did in the sprint race. The sprint race was a lot more penalties by this time. It seemed like by lap 3, there were, 8 drivers with penalties already in the sprint race. But we'll see as your mom's technician finds his way up to P6. I don't know what's going on with Lucas and this track. I mean, we'll see. He always finds a way to fight back. It's just very uncharacteristic for him to not qualify very well as be down in P8 on lap 7 here in Canada. Normally a solid race for him. Let's see what Gamer can do. Our current driver champion leader. We are on board with Gamer in the Red Bull. Let's take a look as he attempts to fight for that pole position. And you got Bernardo just really close, just millimeters away as the sun hits the back of these cars for a beautiful shot. Those hard tires of Bernardo at some point will be in a little bit better shape than these mediums. They're going to show a lot of tire deg in this heat. And these tight racing quarters, tire deg is going to go higher. We're looking at these intervals. The tightest interval right now is between P1, P2, and P3. Great racing happening here. Week 7, Motor Droid Race League here in Canada. Lap 8 of 35. There we were able to see that Mercedes make a very valiant effort at a pass attempt on Gamer, but Gamer just fended him off by having more battery in the tank. We look at Bernardo, who's now struggling to fight off the racing bull of Josiah. So Josiah's entered the chat as far as podium goes, and he sits 3.8 seconds ahead of Two Pigs in the Red Bull. Lucas still struggling down there. He ate the cat like a big wreck between the Williams. That was a racing bull, the Williams of Chef Yum. And Chef Yum caused that collision, 10-second penalty. Will we see a safety car as a result? Huge wreck that we were on board for. There's a caution in Sector 1 with Chef Yum as he struggles. He has no front wing left after that wreck. Look at that thing, no wing at all, just a nose. What's going to happen? He was just coming out of pit lane, too, on one-lap soft tires. Yikes. Are we going to see a safety car tighten these intervals up? Are we going to see a run of pit stops from the race leaders? Let's watch. That caution's still up there. I just don't see a confirmation. Yep, we're in a safety car, folks. And the first person to go into the pit lane is going to be Gamer behind that McLaren a wipeout. So both race leaders are now in pit lane. Let's see Gamer get out as he gets out of pit lane pretty cleanly. You got two pigs now getting worked on. Oh, man, what a shakeup with that safety car. We see a mix-up of tires. So we see everybody that had mediums go to hards, and those hard tires of Bernardo, he's the only one that stayed out. What will this do for him as he, opts out of the faster safety car? What will this mean for his race in the Mercedes? Did Toto Wolff make a bad decision? Kimi, they said you were nothing. Kimi. But look at you now, race leader, driver championship, Kimi. They said you do nothing. And here we are with Wipeout in P2, 7 seconds behind. He's going to gain quite an advantage on these. He opted for another set of mediums. And you got to change compounds. So that means Wipeout's definitely taking another pit stop as we're on lap 10 of 35. Safety car shaking things up here live in Canada. Love to see it. Great race so far. And for the record, every single driver on the track opted for the safety car pit stop. Bernardo, sitting in the race lead, is the only one that did not. So this race lead will be pretty short-lived, I believe, as these guys on the fresh tires, once they get them warmed up to the level they want, they're going to be able to easily pass. Interesting to see Wipeout switch to the mediums. I could see Gamer and two pigs already strategizing this out and going the rest of the race on hard tires. Lucas took hards as well. So a lot of the guys you see on hard tires right now, expect to see them try to stretch it to the end of the race. Maybe impossible. We'll see. Now the biggest question on everybody's mind is, when will we see this safety car go in? Our lap counter says it's lap 12 of 35. I feel like it missed a lap, but maybe I'm just off as we watch and wait for the safety car to run off back into the pits and watch this race again. The race will go again under the command of Bernardo. He'll either get to just accelerate immediately or have to start at the start-finish line. He's now on 11 laps, hards, and all these other people are on 2 laps. Good mix of medium and hard tires. I can't wait to see how the strategy shakes out. We are now under safety car for the 3rd lap in a row. All the intervals have tightened up. Again, the only person not to pit stop, Bernardo in the Mercedes. I got to think he can only go about 8 to 9 more laps on those hards before he makes his pit stop, which would put him at around lap 21 or 22. We could try to switch to Sauce. Safety car is going to go in this lap, so that's a good sign for some racing to take place. So we see the McLaren of Wipeout get real close to that rear wing of the Mercedes. Safety car is about to go in, and Bernardo biding his time before he accelerates. There goes the safety car. 2000 Pigs gets a penalty for a severe collision with Wipeout. And now that Mercedes has pushed the throttle down and we are back to racing, folks. Here he wipes out right away as he approached the start-finish line and is all the way down the pack, which sees the McLaren of Wipeout easily take the lead after the safety car. We got another caution in Sector 1. You got Gamer and 2 Pigs, the 2 Red Bulls now in P2, P3. Interesting to see the 2 teammates side by side in that position, and they're being chased by the Williams of your mom's technician. What a great, interesting start or restart to the race after safety car to see the race lead take it perhaps too far on those hard tires, and that's why he spun out. Approaching the start-finish line. Let's watch. Now, 2 Pigs sitting in P3. It's going to be tough for him to maintain that position as he does have a 10-second penalty he received during the safety car. You see Gamer now 1.3 seconds behind Wipeout, probably because Wipeout has those medium tires. But Wipeout's going to have to change compounds. He hasn't changed compounds. Every track's going to require you to use 2 different compounds. So how will that shake out? I'm very interested to see. What's our tightest interval on the track? You got your mom's technician and 2 Pigs just exchange positions. Let's go on board with your mom's technician, the Williams, and see how he's getting hunted down by 2 Pigs and Josiah, the racing bull right there. As they just come flying around those corners, it is tight from P3 to P6 with Bud So Loud at the very end of that pack in the Cadillac. And Lucas he's in P7, struggling to find his way up the leaderboard. Again, strategy will play a huge role on all these guys that went from medium to medium and these guys that went from medium to hard. Two Pigs making a look at a pass. He locks it up, nearly sending Josiah into his rear wing. It is just tight quarters between P3 and P5 as we now see Josiah go to the outside of Pigs, and he has the pace and the track position, cleanly passes on the inside. Sorry about that. Right through Champion's wall with no wreck. And now Josiah into P4. What does Pigs have left in the tank battery-wise to make another? Oh, and they rub tires going through that turn 3. And he's not able to actually take the position, but he keeps racing as he switches outside to in, and they make their way around these S turns. Oh, that was close to being a big wipeout of some sort. There's a Bud So Loud penalty coming up. And Josiah fighting off 2 Pigs quite literally with contact in the Racing Bull as we take a look at the Red Bull of 2 Pigs chasing them down again. So we see P1 through P3. Wipeout on 5-lap mediums in P1 being chased down by the Red Bull Gamer who's on 5-lap hards. 2 Pigs and Josiah are battling again and again. And they continue to make contact with each other. Red Bull versus Racing Bull. And Pigs finds himself on the losing end of that battle again, but he does not give up. Through the Wall of Champions, those final 2 turns, he can't get enough pace or enough position to finally complete the pass and let it hold. He goes to the inside again. 2 different tire compounds battling it out. Oh, and Josiah just has enough to fend him off, but Pigs is not giving up as they weave around this track. Very tight quarters between the 2. Pigs with a 10-second penalty. So he's got to climb as much as he can to fend off people that'll naturally take a position from him. We do see Lucas in the Cadillac now in P6, sneaking his way up in the lineup to try to get closer to podium. He's going to have to pray for some mistakes up front, which very well may happen as two pigs of Josiah battle it out. It would be a dream for Lucas if those two battle so hard they crash out. He would jump up to P4 and be able to contend with your mom's technician, who's currently sitting P3 in the Williams. Let's look at Gamer on board with that Red Bull as he is just hunting down Wipeout and Wipeout. By the way, Bernardo down in P9, who wiped out and is on 15 lap hards. He has not taken a pit stop yet. He's the only driver. So you can see, you almost see your mom's technician there behind Gamer. And Wipeout is in that McLaren flying around Canada. 5/10 of a second ahead of Gamer. Josiah now passes your mom's technician. Your mom's technician had a Wipeout as he gets passed by two pigs of Josiah. Wow, just these tight corners at Canada produce this type of driving to where you just have people spin out quite frequently, and in the blink of an eye, the race changes. And you now have Lucas. We're on board with Lucas as he's watching your mom's technician battle with two pigs, but Lucas is in a battle of his own. He wants to get past the Williams of your mom's technician and work his way up the leaderboard for points, as it's going to be vital for the Drivers' Championship, as we are now looking at lap 17 of 35 here in Canada. Motor Droid Race League, two pigs, is able to actually he got passed by your mom's technician, and two pigs is fighting back just for a quick switchback. As they cross the finish line, your mom's technician holds him off to the outside and retains P4 in the Williams with a penalty-free race, by the way. Pigs with a 10-second penalty. So right now, as it sits, your mom would be 4th and Lucas would be 5th, and Pigs would be way down there about 8th place. But we'll see how it ends up with other people's penalties as your mom's technician gets a clean pass by two pigs after Pigs made yet another aggressive pass attempt. We'll take a look at Pigs and Lucas now just battling it out. Here's the rear wing of 2,000 Pigs watching Lucas hunt him down. Lap 18 of 35, that Cadillac cannot be held off easily. It's really a matter of Lucas remaining clean and finding the right time to make an attack. And can Lucas have a battery advantage? He does seem to be just a bit above two Pigs on battery. Yeah, he is. Oh, yeah, Pigs is at 2%. Lucas is at 60%. He is going to have the advantage at one of these straightaways to finally make a pass, as he's doing a much better job of harvesting his battery. Here goes P4 through P6 across the finish line. Immense, very intense battle for these positions. Can they all get out of it cleanly as Pig spins, and Lucas had no choice but to run into him? That was a Pig spin out that caused the collision. The question is, what did that do to Lucas's front wing? It looks pretty well intact. Yeah, lucky for Lucas, he didn't take much front wing damage. And now we're looking at the first mistake, like we were talking, with Pigs in P6. Lucas taking that position of P5. Now he has to hunt down your mom's technician. He sits 1.6 seconds behind. Let's go back to the race lead as Gamer and Wipeout maintain very close proximity to each other. I want to see the detail of penalties. Right now, Gamer is a presumptive P1 because of that 3-second penalty that Wipeout is holding as he is racing around the McLaren in pole position. What a race up front and up top to get this done. Gamer right now, keep it clean, keep it tight. He'll take home the first place trophy as it sits right now. Two Pigs down there in P6 with 16 seconds and penalties. That little piggy has been flying around the track and causing chaos like normal. Gotta love it. Let's listen into the race, the sounds of the race with Gamer on board, chasing down Wipeout in the McLaren. And what an aggressive move by Gamer in the Red Bull to try to take Earl Wipeout around that horseshoe. He did it, but he just deployed way too much of his battery, and Wipeout maintained the racecraft needed to reclaim P1. Now Gamer needs to know Gamer just took home his first 3-second penalty. This is humongous. Now they're just neck and neck, and they gotta just outrace each other with Josiah climbing up to P3 as he passes your mom's technician, and Lucas up to P4 as he gets past your mom's technician. So a big mistake by your mom's technician caused him to fall 2 places behind Josiah, and Lucas in the Cadillac fights his way back to P4. Incredible. Just like that, I was trying to take a bathroom break real quick. I had to pee so bad. And before I could even get to the toilet, this is a small house, folks. Before I could even get there to pee, Lucas jumps up 2 spots. Josiah jumps up 2 spots. Gamer had P1 for a moment, only to give it back to Wipeout. Now we look at Gamer in the middle of Wipeout and Josiah. No, that's not Josiah. That's going to be lap traffic that's actually behind Gamer. So that lap traffic needs to keep it clean and not mess up these race leaders' drives like Carlos Sainz did last week in Hungary in real life. And now we have Gamer hunting down that McLaren. Oh my goodness, what's going to happen? Is that Audi better not mix things up and cause a problem? You've got Gamer 0.3 of a second behind the race lead of Wipeout on lap 22 of 35. Week 7 Motor Droid Race League. They both have 3-second penalties, which will cancel each other out. So it was, just a bit ago, a game of Gamer needing to stay close and stay clean. And he goes to the inside for the pass down this straightaway. And he has it, folks, through that S-turn. He had the absolute pace and battery deployment available to beat Earl Wipeout down that straightaway. And now he reclaims P1 and is 0.5 of a second ahead of Wipeout in the McLaren. Good for Gamer on these hard tires. We see these tires starting to wobble a little bit. So how long will these guys' tires last? Will everybody have to go into a 2-stop strategy? Oh, and the McLaren tried to the inside but could not get track position and into the wall of champions. Gamer outpaced him with battery management, staying 0.9 of a second ahead of him through the start-finish line. And again, Wipeout, I believe, is on medium tires. Yes, he is. He has a different strategy than Gamer. Right now, those hard tires are proving to hold up enough for Gamer to have a distinct advantage and maintain P1 position. Let's listen into the race, folks. As I see some intervals grow, I see my opportunity to urinate grow. All right, I was able to make a pit stop of my own, and I see what I missed. We see Gamer now into the P1 position because Earl Wipeout had to have taken a pit stop. So let me see. Tire. Yeah, Earl Wipeout had to take his second pit stop of the day and is now on 0 lap hard. So he went medium, hard dropping him down to P6. But look, everybody in front of them, in front of Wipeout, is on 14 lap hards because of that safety car. You see Lucas made his way up to P3, finding the podium. Josiah in P2, and Gamer out with a 2.8, 2.9 second lead ahead of P2. He's now the race lead. He there he goes around that turn, wobbling once again. So his tires, they're going to have to change. So as we look at the fact that Gamer is most likely going to have to actually change tires, let's look at the leader interval and stay on the tires. So we see Gamer is now, he is 15 seconds ahead of Wipeout, which means if he takes a pit stop, Wipeout takes the lead. He's going to have to push for a little bit and try to increase that interval, which I think will be extremely difficult, seeing as Wipeout's now on 1 lap hards. So actually, just to split the difference, he needs to go into the pit stop now because Wipeout is setting a way better lap time on those fresh hards. So, stop the bleeding, if you will. Go directly in the pit. No, and he opts not for the pit. Goes into the wall of champions. Does he think there's going to be another safety car? Or does he think he can finish this race on these hard tires with 9 laps left? That would be insane. I've seen him take hard tires about 25 laps. He might try to do this, folks. He'll be sliding around to make it happen as Wipeout sets the fastest lap of the race. Not surprising. And he is just, he's gaining at a tremendous pace. He's about a second per lap. But even that would not allow him to take P1. Oh my goodness, what a mix-up taking place. Let's go back to intervals as the Williams of Your Mom's Technician makes a pass on Bud So Loud in the Cadillac. This is going to be one of the more exciting. Oh my goodness, this is going to be very exciting. Let's go look at intervals with the tires. 3-second gaps from P1 through P3. Wipeout is 5 seconds back there. He's attempting to gain as much as he can on those fresh hards. I think everybody else is staying out on these hard tires. Insane. I don't ever see Lucas be that risky or take hard tires that long. How's he doing? Or is he going into the pit? No, he opts out. So on lap 27 of 35, these drivers are going to push these hard tires to the absolute limit to try to beat the McLaren of Wipeout and take home the podium positions. We see Your Mom's Technician just took a pit stop, switched to 0-lap mediums, as well as 2,000 Pigs doing the same. We see a caution in Sector 3. No big accident. Chef Yum did officially DNF out of the race, so we have 10 drivers left on the track, making for a very exciting Canada GP. What's going to happen is these guys' tires, I want to go back to leader interval versus interval. You see Wipeout now 13.8 seconds behind the race lead of Gamer. You see Josiah in P2 having to deal with some lap traffic, trying to get around an Audi, I believe, of Miller. And Lucas in the Cadillac is 2 seconds, mostly 3 seconds behind Josiah of P2. And then Wipeout, 7 seconds behind Lucas, hunting him down. We are in a virtual safety car because Hudson to King has a DNF. So Hudson to King crashed out. We are now in a virtual safety car. Bernardo just took home a drive-through penalty for speeding under that virtual safety car. Virtual safety car now over. Nobody opting to take a pit stop during the VSC. And Josiah in P2, Lucas P3, and Wipeout trying to gain some positions as much as he can on these fresh tires. Lap 28 of 35, really only 7 laps left to do anything to get into the podium. Show me a tight interval somewhere, folks. This is getting to be quite an untight race as Lucas now approaches. Let's go on board with Lucas in the Cadillac approaching Josiah in an attempt to take P2. This should be a good finish to the race. Oh no, something went wrong with my game. I'm going to report it to Sony. Oh my God, something went wrong with the game as we're trying to finish this race out. And then did that stop my recording too, you people? Let's go back over here, save recent gameplay, full video. Oh no, how could they do that to me? It stopped my recording and everything, stopped my stream. Start a new recording. I gotta get back in the game. It just completely locked me out, folks. This game crashed out as we were coming down to the closing laps of the Canada GP. So I don't even get to finish watching this race unless somehow I get invited back in. If you're watching the live stream, invite me back in so I can try to rejoin. But there was some sort of error that I've never experienced playing this game, or after playing it for 2 years. This has never happened. We were coming down the wire, having a great race, great commentary vibes, and out of nowhere, get me back in to this race, please, folks. Invite me so we can watch the end. What a disappointment. Oh my gosh. Where are my invites? Nobody can invite me because they're racing. If you're watching on YouTube and you're in the race, invite me. What a disappointment that is for the game to completely crash out. I wonder if it crashed out on everybody else. And EA will have something to answer for. That is completely screwed up. Let's see what's happening in the lobby. Hello? Hey, what just happened? The EA server just crashed? That was awful, dude. That was such a close race. Can we keep positions? Hey, somebody's got to mute their shit because all I hear is echo. Mute your YouTube. All right. So what if? How many laps are left? 7? Yeah. Well, gamer, you can definitely have a league vote to see what everybody wants to do. Not on voice chat. You know what I mean? Put up a poll. But an option is to run like a 10-lap race or a 12-lap race at the beginning of next week. At the beginning of next week, and everybody starts in those positions. No, let's do it right now. If that's what you guys want to do, but we got to find like a cordial way of figuring it out so not everybody's talking on top of each other.
Okay, am I asking kindly or?
It's not doing this right now.
That's pretty kind.
Oh my god, brother, I gotta
That race was pretty much figured out, except Wipeout might have done something because he had fresh tires. But that race was pretty figured out.
No.
You're gonna hold
I was
off.
watching the cars for about 2 seconds a lot. No, I was trying to have a go into it.
I was catching up to you like every fucking like 2 seconds a lap. I would have probably caught up to you at the end. Just to your sprint. Your tires were toast.
What were you? You were on fresh mediums, your mom?
Yeah, I literally told Chef like.
What?
I was like assuming that he was gonna take because I know his tires were eaten up. Mine were. Mine were.
Why would you do a 25% rate? If we do a sprint, then it's all mandatory pit stop. If we do a sprint. That's kind of boring.
Oh my god.
That's why we should do 25%.
Dude.
No, let's do like some kind of 5-lap or 25-lap race, and the grid is as it was.
The short
Do
race.
25% from those positions. I'll be happy with that.
No, the short race.
Yeah, that is a short race. 25% short. That's like
No,
20
it
minutes.
says it's 5 lap short,
Oh.
25% long.
Isn't 5 lap very short?
Yeah, no, a 5 lap race. That'll be thinking that'll just be
You gotta
chaos.
have a
Okay,
pace,
everyone is gonna have fresh softs, so it's just gonna be mayhem.
Yeah, we put it
Right,
as.
so
Thanks for taking too long. I'm
garbage.
going to your stream.
I'm not even streaming.
There were so many.
Okay, everyone here that has gotten a penalty from Lucas.
There were
knows that he lags right when you're next to him.
Either way, there were so many penalties in that race that it'd be hard for us to recreate where everything was
It
at.
doesn't matter.
No, it was
This
just track
happened-
limits. This track is terrible for track limits.
Murph, in Creator Series, if the server crashes, they just restart it with brand new thing, but just shorter.
But like what? So you guys just got to decide how many laps to
like
do
a
and then
medium.
do it.
Like a medium
Yeah.
instead of long, or what?
25%.
I'm down for that, Loki.
Basically another sprint race.
I mean,
Bro,
25%
you guys
is just
just
reasonable.
got drive
Second,
through
though.
penalties. You guys were literally gonna be 30 seconds
Dude,
behind.
I was 2 seconds below what they wanted, and it still gave me a penalty.
I'm gonna
You
go
guys
smoke
were
one of the luckiest, mate. I'll be
Nah.
back.
Like, and you guys
I'll
just
be
get
back.
nailed out now.
I'll start it without me. I'll be back.
All right, let's start it without him.
So I'm just
God,
gonna,
that's not even
here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna run the 25. We're gonna run the 25, no pole. And I'm just gonna apply everybody's penalties and then put their good position based on what the penalty would give them.
So
I
many
was
30-second penalties.
DNF.
Alright.
All right, so a 25 lap race.
No.
Apply penalties?
What?
How many laps? Oh, 25%.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
25%.
I was gonna say I can't talk that much more.
There's
You
still
can
gonna be
apply
a mandatory pit. There's still gonna be a mandatory pit stop, I think.
Dude, watch the EA servers just be down.
Yeah, have you tried to invite me again? 'Cause I don't.
Holy, this.
It could be
I'm
down
looking at
down.
the grid standings where we crashed, and this guy Fernando is like 50 seconds behind, bro. What the hell?
Oh, wait,
Yeah,
don't give him a 50-second penalty.
Because him and Pigs got drive-through penalties. Like I said, they were gonna be like 30, 40 seconds behind, and they just get bailed out now.
No, Pigs
Yeah, it's a red
Pigs
flag.
officially
It's a red
had
flag.
Pigs officially had
What?
4 minutes and 30 seconds of penalties.
Yikes! It's 18 fucking laps. I don't know if I want to do that.
Do short.
That is short, bro.
Ooh. Sprint race.
I'm saying, dude, like
I can't. Okay, what's the leave on the sprint? Because the sprint race.
You have to do it
mandatory.
pit stop.
Huh? No.
are
Just do a 5 lap.
the servers working?
Ooh, I got it. The sprint for if I put it on medium, it's 8 laps, and you don't have to pit. It's a sprint.
There you go.
Oh,
Rather too.
just move me.
Pure chaos.
Let me just invite everybody again.
Wait, I'm logging in.
Wait, so it's gonna be what penalties we had, or like adding up the time between
So
games?
Pigs, you have 16 seconds. I'm giving you 16 seconds, so you're gonna be behind. Let's see.
What?
Wait, are the penalties
No,
carrying over?
I served my
Wait.
10 second.
Oh wait, no, you served that shit.
They got a fucking
It's like-
drive-through. It was 30.
But-
God,
Wait, so you're
What
gonna
if-
show me the video or what?
What if
Wait,
like
gamer, are you getting a 3-second then?
But
Gamer.
what if like in
3
the
second
F1
is
race,
not gonna do anything, bro. You still be 2 seconds behind.
What if in the F1 race all the lights go out, so they have to red flag? So that's basically what happened.
How am I gonna be 2
Deal with
seconds?
it.
Because you were 6 seconds behind me, dog. Like what?
Gamer. What are you gonna give me if the game crashed when I was serving my penalty?
Right, you're gonna be where you
No,
are, bro.
You were
You're
not
gonna be
serving
where
your
you are.
penalty while the other game crashed.
I was.
I remember that.
It's.
No,
I was
I
ready
remember
to
that.
Who hasn't gotten an invite, bro?
Hey,
Sorry.
Katie.
me.
Why is F1 stretched?